I heard about a family that had a tradition. And the tradition was that every time one of the family members had a birthday, they would all get together, eat a chocolate cake, and then the person whose birthday it was would go over all of the wishes they had for that upcoming year. And the number of wishes they got was the same number of years they were turning. So for instance, the daughter turns 4 years old, they eat the chocolate cake, and she goes over her 4 wishes. She wants to make a new friend, take a gymnastics class. She wants to eat out for ice cream once a week with her grandpa. Okay, now the dad turns 40 years old, they eat a chocolate cake, and he pulls out this big long list of 40 wishes. You know, that year he wants to go with his wife on a date night once a week. She's super excited, right? He wants to take the family to Disneyland, and everyone's clapping, they're all excited. Now, a year later, the dad turns 41, and they get together, eat a chocolate cake, and then when he goes to go over his wishes, he pulls out one little sheet of paper, and on that sheet of paper it says, "This year all I want is my health back." So see, that year the dad had been diagnosed with cancer, and so when we have our health, we have many wishes. When we have lost our health, we just have one. So that's why we're here today. So it's my job to make sure that you and your family have as many wishes as possible. Because when you've lost your health, what else have you lost? Everything, right? So after reviewing your exam and x-rays, we have found problems with your spines that is decreasing your health. And if you do nothing about the problems, they can get worse. If it were something simple, we would just send you home with exercises or send you to a massage therapist, but unfortunately it's not that simple. But the good news is these problems are reversible to a point if you take action to fix them now. So the major outcome of today's visit is to educate you on how to read your own x-rays so that you know exactly what the problem is and how you can correct those challenges without drugs or surgery, so that you can live a life with abundant health, with energy, and not have to take a bunch of drugs to do it. So I do want to acknowledge you for being here. You know, the fact that you're here tells me that you care about your health. Otherwise, you wouldn't even be here today, right? And so we've done this presentation many times over the years, and what we found is the patients who are engaged and participating always learn the most, and they're the ones that the information makes a difference in their lives. So that's why we have pen and paper for you guys to take notes. I'm just gonna ask a number of questions. What we want is for you guys to answer the questions right out loud. And so the key is participation. So who in here, by show of hands, is willing to participate today? Great, love it. Before we get into it though, I want to tell you why this message I have for you is so important to me. So when I was young, I had a major accident to where I actually had 2 fractured vertebrae in the lower part of my neck. And that injury caused major problems in my life to where I was having neck pain and headaches on a regular basis. And I was in the military for a while, and the headaches and the neck pain were getting worse. And then after the military, I was in college, and that's where things really fell apart on me. So what happened was I herniated a disc in the lower part of my spine. So here I was in my early 20s with neck pain and headaches, back pain shooting down my leg. And it was so bad that it was just causing my energy level to be horribly low, and I was sick all the time. And then one day it all came apart on me. See, at my school, the college I went to, the buildings with the classrooms are at the bottom of a hill, and the dorms were up at the top of a hill. So I finished an English composition exam, and I was walking up the hill, and as I was walking up the hill, I was in so much pain and my body was so weak and I lost so much health that I couldn't make it up the hill. I actually had to stop and sit down on a guardrail that was running along the sidewalk there. And as I was sitting there watching all the other students walking up and down the hill, that's whenever I asked myself the first question that I have for you guys, and that is, what is your greatest asset? And the answer is what? It's your health, right? How does it feel when you have lost your health? How does that feel?
It's awful.
Feels bad. Have you ever been in the position where you wanted to do something, but you couldn't simply because your health wasn't there?
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. So see, that's when I went from thinking that my health was my greatest asset to knowing and feeling it on the inside, because I literally was incapacitated at 24 years old. So if you're telling me that your health is your greatest asset, then who ultimately is responsible for your health? Who do you think?
yourself.
Yeah, everybody is individually responsible for those. Okay. So is it your spouse?
No.
No, it's not. Is it your doctor?
No.
No. Is it McDonald's?
Absolutely
No,
not.
right. So is it your health insurance?
No.
You know it's not, and we know that because let's say you have two people and they have the exact same health condition. They go to the exact same hospital, however, they have different insurances. Do they get the exact same care?
No.
They don't. Now, isn't that interesting? So does your health insurance play a role in your health? Yes, it does. Is it responsible for your health? No, it's not. So if health is your greatest asset and ultimately everybody's individually responsible for their health, then the next question is, why do you think so few people are actually healthy? Why do so many people struggle with their health? What do you think?
They don't have time.
Okay, time, right?
Finances.
Okay, finances, the financial part, okay. Those are great answers. And if we were to look at it, it really comes down to two broad categories. The first one is a lack of commitment. You know, people who are healthy long-term are the ones who have made health a priority in their lives and they are committed to being healthy. So who in here are committed to being healthy? Great. The second is wrong information or the wrong health map. So let's say you were in New York City. So you're in New York City and you pull out your phone, you're gonna look at the map of New York City. But when you pull it up, it's a map of Chicago. How well would you be able to navigate the streets of New York if your map is of Chicago? You wouldn't, right? So the key there is, when it comes to health, a lot of people have the wrong map, all right? So if you are, you believe health is your greatest asset, you're also are committed to being healthy, and you realize that ultimately you're responsible for it, then wouldn't it be important to know what you are committing to? In other words, you'd have to know what health is if you were going to commit to the things necessary to be healthy. Does that make sense? So, what is health? What do you think?
How you feel?
Okay, how you feel? Good. What else? What do you think?
So your physical appearance, if you.
Okay, great. So looking at it, most people would base their health on how they look or how they feel, right? So we feel we're healthy as long as we look and we feel good. And before I became a chiropractor, that is exactly how I looked at health as well. But now, after 16 years in practice, over 8,000 patients at our office, I've come to realize that is one of the main reasons that people struggle with their health, live on medication, and aren't living the life they were created to have. And the reason is this: it's reactive, right? If you're basing your health on how you look, how you feel, it automatically assumes that you are healthy until what?
So you don't look good.
Yeah, you don't look good or you don't feel good. Now health has become something that we just react to. We don't do anything about it until we've already lost part of it. And the other problem with basing your health on how you look, how you feel is you're gonna miss the top killers in America. So 5 out of 6 people die from only 2 diseases. What are they? What do you think?
Heart disease.
Okay.
Cancer.
Right, heart disease and cancer. So can you have heart disease and not feel it?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Absolutely. So my cousin Dewey died of heart disease. What happened was, he was 47 years old, this was in 2011, and he came home from work and he was sitting down watching TV after dinner, and he had a beer in his hand like this. And so he was watching TV, his wife went to bed, and she came out, and when she came out in the morning, he was sitting there in the chair dead. He was still holding his beer. He had died of a massive heart attack, and it was so fast that he didn't even drop his beer. And he never had any symptoms. In other words, he had never had been to the doctor for heart disease. He never had any chest pain or jaw pain, arm pain, those things they normally associate with that. So what was the first symptom he had of a disease? What do you think? What was it?
Death.
Right, it was death. The first symptom he had was death. What about cancer? Can you have cancer and not feel it?
Absolutely.
Yes, you can. So my sister died of cancer. So what happened was, it was my last year of chiropractic college, and I got a call, and my sister said that she had felt a lump under her arm. So she went to the hospital, and it was diagnosed as cancer. And so it was breast cancer that had already spread from her lymph nodes in her armpit throughout her whole body. And so she had a 1-year-old and a 2-year-old with her husband at home. And so she died of cancer. And so what was, if you look at that, what was the very first symptom she had of any type of a health problem?
A lump on her.
Yeah, the lump in her arm. So by the time she felt that, she was already dead of cancer. It was just a matter of time. So if you were to think about it with me with like heart disease and cancer, in America, are we dying of the things that we feel, or are we actually dying of things we don't feel?
Things you
Don't feel. That's totally right. We're dying of things we don't feel, yet we've been trained as a society that we are healthy as long as we look good and we feel good. So you can see when it comes to health, a lot of people have the wrong map. So if a person really wanted to be healthy, wouldn't you have to have a totally different definition of what health is as opposed to how you look and how you feel?
Absolutely.
Okay? So who in here would like to learn a better definition of health so you and your families can actually be healthy? So according to the World Health Organization, health is defined as optimal functioning of the body, mentally, socially, physically, and spiritually. And it's not merely the absence of disease. So yes, diet is important because the food you eat, your body breaks down and uses to build and grow, okay? Exercise is important because you're gonna ask your body to do certain things, and the exercise helps you to be able to do that. But when it comes to health, health is completely about how our bodies are functioning. So when your body is functioning at 100%, that is life. That's when you are the best you can be, mentally, socially, physically, and spiritually. The best mother, the best sister, the best employee, the best boss, the best athlete. When it's 0%, that's death. Now, the thing that has always fascinated me is that what the research tells us is that we don't feel any type of a symptom until we've already lost a significant portion of our health. And the reason for that is that 9 out of 10 of the nerves in your body are not for pain. Only 10% are for pain. 9 out of 10%, or 9 out of 10 are for the functions of your body. So if your heart is functioning at 70%, do you necessarily feel that?
No.
You may not, right? And when we look at this, where do you think in this equation the traditional healthcare system focuses on? Does it focus on 100% life down to symptoms, or symptoms down to 0%? What do you think?
Symptoms is 0%.
That's exactly right, symptoms is 0%. So would it be more accurate, instead of calling it healthcare, to call it sick care? Does that make sense? What about health insurance? Is your health insurance designed to keep you functioning at 100%, or is it there in case you get a disease?
It's there in case you get a disease.
That's exactly right. So would it be more accurate to call it disease insurance as opposed to health insurance, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, so looking at it, the key is we really need to know exactly what symptoms are, but we also need to know what they're not. So most people look at the symptom as a problem, but I'd rather we look at the symptoms as a warning sign that you have a problem, almost like a smoke alarm in your house. So let's say there's a fire in your house. Now the smoke alarm is going off. Is the smoke alarm the problem?
No.
No, it's not, right? You know, would you run over and take the battery out of the smoke alarm? No, of course not. When the firemen break through the door, do they chop down the fire alarm?
No.
Of course not, right? So now you have a disease process in your body, and it gets to the point to where you're having a symptom. Now that's the alarm, okay? There are 3 things that you could do at that point. The first thing is, what most people do is they just simply ignore it as long as they can. But let me ask you, is ignoring the warning signs a good long-term strategy for your health?
No.
No, it's not, because what happens? It gets worse, okay? The next thing you could do is you could go to CVS, you could go to the hospital, and what are they gonna do?
Prescribe a drug.
You got it, you're gonna get drugs. So now, let's say you have a symptom, whether it's pain, or you're tired all the time, or headaches, you can't focus. hormone issues. Now you take a drug, and then let's say the symptom goes away. What exactly happened on the inside of your body? Did the drug restore the life functioning and health, or did it mask the symptom?
Mask the symptom.
Mask the symptom, right? So that's why one drug over time leads to what?
Another drug.
Another drug, which may lead to another drug or may lead to a surgery. So looking at that, the key is this. What we've been trained in America is we've been trained that this here equals health. But the reality is, statistically, if all you're doing is masking the symptoms, this is one of the worst things that you can do. And according to a study by PhDs and MDs called Death by Medicine, you can look it up, it's called Death by Medicine, taking drugs, masking the symptoms, and sick medical care kills over 600,000 people a year. Okay? Now realize that's not the medical doctor's fault. That's the system we've been trained in. The system is, you have a symptom, what do? Take a drug. Now what if the drug you're taking causes another symptom? What do you do then?
They give you another drug.
You take another drug for that, right? And that doesn't make any sense at all. So looking at it here, America represents 8.7% of the world's population. However, we take 75% of the world's drugs. And we spend more money per person on what we call healthcare, over $8,000 a year per man, woman, and child on healthcare. And we have more doctors than any other country, by far. And yet with all the drugs, all the money, all the doctors, you would think that we would be the healthiest country on earth, right?
Yeah.
But guess what? We rank number 37th in overall health. We're one of the least healthy countries of the industrialized countries in the world. So looking at it, what would be, so you have a symptom, okay? What would be the logical thing to do? To identify exactly what's causing the symptom and then fix that, and therefore you are restoring the life functioning. In other words, put the fire out, and then what happens to the alarm? Yeah, it just goes off all on its own, right? So let's say you have two choices. Choice A is you invest a little. Let's say you invest $3,000 to $5,000 to take your condition from here, and now you restore the functioning, restore the health, restore the life, and now your improved health allows you to live the life that you were created to have, with energy and vitality, and not having to take a lot of drugs, okay? Choice B is you procrastinate, you think about it, you put it off, you end up in this area, you lose functioning. Now you have to spend tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars just to try to restore your health. And in the worst case scenario is your health becomes an impediment to you achieving the goals, and you become a burden to your family. So what do you choose? B or A?
A.
Yeah, you choose A every time, right? So looking at it, the key is that in order for us to be healthy, we need to take control of how our bodies do what? Function, okay? And the great thing is you already have everything inside of you to function to the best of your ability. In other words, there is an innate intelligence that knows how to be healthy. Everything just needs to be functioning right. So for instance, when you were born, did your mother have to teach you how to nurse? No, you knew that inside, right? Whenever you cut your finger, do you need a doctor to get the finger to heal, or does your body heal itself? It heals itself. It just has to be functioning right to do that. So looking at it, the key is we really need to know exactly how to take control of how our bodies function, and then we would be taking control of our own health. So what part of your body controls all functioning?
The brain.
Exactly. So the brain controls all functioning. And the way that it does that, it sends energy down through your spinal cord, out from in between the vertebra, to all the organs, all the tissues, all the cells of your body. And each and every organ, tissue, and cell is totally dependent on the energy from the brain to keep us alive and healthy. And that's the way that your body works. 24/7, from conception until death, it never stops. So in order for us to be at our optimal health potential, it is vital that all the energy is getting from the brain to the organs at 100% of the time. So for instance, if someone were to cut off your head, what would happen?
You died.
Right. If someone were to cut the nerve to your heart, what do you think would happen?
You would end up dying.
You would die, right? Now, is that a belief or is that a fact?
That's a fact.
It's a fact, right? In other words, we're not talking about a theory here. It's a law of life. There's no possibility they're cutting your head off and you're living.
No.
So now, if we were to just scale that back a little bit, we don't cut the nerve to the heart. We just provide some irritation to the nerve. It's like a dam in the river right here. What do you think would happen to the heart over time?
Dysfunction.
Okay, it'll start to function poorly over time. And the problem is if an organ functions poorly long enough, it enters into a disease state. And now the problem for most people basing their health on how they look, how they feel is,
You don't feel.
yeah, you don't feel a disease state until for many people, including my sister and my cousin, it was too late. So because your brain and the nervous system tissue are the most delicate, the most priceless tissues in your body, and the most important, your creator surrounded them with the hardest substance to protect them, and that's the bone. And so your spine really protects two main areas of the nervous system. The top one is the brainstem. So everybody take your finger, push right behind your ear there. That's your brainstem. That area is the conductor for your whole body. That area controls your heart rate, your sleeping patterns, your hormones, right? That's a big deal. If you were to tweak your hormones a tiny bit, it could have a huge effect on your overall health, okay? That's the area Christopher Reeve damaged. So you guys know Christopher Reeve, he fell off the horse. He had 1 centimeter worth of damage right at the brainstem, the thickness of your pinky. So if there's a dam in the river right here, what do you think is going to happen to the organs below that?
They're not gonna function correctly.
They'll shut down, right? Not function correctly. So what happened to Christopher Reeve? He had to have a pacemaker and a defibrillator to keep his heart going, a respirator to keep his lungs breathing, and they had to push on his colon every day just to keep him going to the bathroom. But did he have a bad heart?
No.
No. You know, did he land on his colon when he fell off the horse? No, he didn't, right? See, those organs would have functioned properly, but they just weren't getting that energy from the brain. So the second area that your spine protects is the spinal cord, and that's like this river highway carrying energy from the brain through the spine, then out from in between the vertebra to every organ, every tissue, every cell. And that system of energy from the brain to the organs and helping your body to function to its best, that works really well when your spine is lined up correctly. So this is a plastic model of a spine, and when we look at it, if you look at your spine from the back, it should be straight, okay? And from the side, it should have these 3 beautiful curves. Now, if we look at your x-rays, however, and let's say that we look at it and there's this shift in the lower part of your spine, in these areas where the vertebrae are not lined up properly, the nerves are being damaged. Is that healthy or is that sick?
That's sick.
That's sick, right? Is there any possibility that if the nerves are being damaged here, that the organs at the end of the nerves can be functioning at 100%?
No.
There's no possibility, right? Now, do you necessarily feel that? You may not, right? You may have some back pain, or you may not even have pain yet. So now, we look from the side, and there should be these 3 curves like this, but there's a loss of the curve up in the neck. Is that healthy or sick?
Sick.
Sick, okay. So the research says that there should be a nice curve through there. You know, ideally, it should be over 40 degrees, at least over 30. Anything less than 20 degrees is considered to be in a disease state. So now, let's say you have a loss of that curve, and now, is there any possibility that the organs throughout the neck and your immune system can be functioning 100%? There's no possibility. Now, do you necessarily feel that?
Not necessarily.
Not necessarily, right? You may have some neck pain, you may get some headaches, or you may not even feel that. So there's a word I'm going to use. It's the most important word of the evening. I do want you to write this down, okay, guys? Subluxation. S-U-B-L-U-X-A-T-I-O-N. Subluxation. So subluxation is a misalignment of the vertebra where the nerves are being damaged and decreasing your health. It's like a giant dimmer switch on the wall. It decreases the life from the brain to the organs. And there are a number of laws that govern subluxations, and these are laws. These aren't my opinion, but actual laws. The first law is that you don't necessarily feel them. And the second law is if left untreated, they cause degeneration diseases, in some cases early death. So Mayo Clinic did a study that showed that if you have an increased curve in the upper back and a loss of the curve and a forward head, that subluxation alone can take up to 14 years off your life. Is that healthy or is that sick? That's sick, right? The next law is subluxations don't discriminate against your age. That's why we have little bitty babies all the way to folks well up into their 90s. And the next law is this. So let's say that we look at your x-rays. Now, there's a shift in this upper part of your spine. Let's say you're having pain with that. Now you ice it, you heat it, you stretch it, you get a massage, you get a steroid shot there, you get better nutrition, you take a ibuprofen, Tylenol, prescription drugs. Now you go back, you redo the x-rays, what do you think you see?
It's the same.
Yeah, it looks the same, right? Now all those things have their place, but the only thing that can actually correct that type of an alignment issue is through a rehabilitative program of chiropractic care. And the earlier you identify and correct it, the better the prognosis. And the only doctors licensed and trained to identify and correct it are chiropractors. And the only way that you can identify it is by seeing it on an x-ray. Otherwise, you're just guessing. You have to see it on the x-ray. So now, let's say you have a loss of the curve in the neck. We said that's sick, right? So now let's say you start to correct that problem 5, 10, 15 degrees. Now are you getting sicker or now you're getting healthier?
I'm getting healthier.
Yeah, now you're getting healthier, right? It's a law of life. We said this is getting sicker. Now, if you correct it, there's no possibility you can't be getting healthier if you're correcting that problem. So looking at that, what we're going to do is we're going to go over some x-rays of real patients with real challenges, because this is called the doctor's report. We call it the doctor's report because who needs to be the doctor? Of course you do. If you're responsible for your health, then you need to be the doctor. So have you ever been to a doctor where they went over something, an MRI or blood work, and you really didn't understand what they were telling you? And because you didn't understand, what did you do? You just did whatever they asked you to do, right? Well, we call that the doctor-patient relationship. Well, at our office, if you're ultimately responsible for your health, then you need to be the doctor. So when we go over the x-rays, we're going to make sure that you know exactly what you're looking at. So when we go over your x-rays, you'll know how to read them, okay? So looking at it, this first x-ray here, her name is Lauren, and we met her at a health fair. So she's 44 years old, and she came in. She's an attorney. She has 4 kids. She also has a history of a lot of back pain and sciatica, which is pain going down into the legs, as well as a big history of constipation and irritable bowel type problems. So looking at it, this is looking at her from the back. This is her left hip or right hip in her spine. What do you notice? What are some of the problems? What do you see? Okay, curve.
One of her hips is higher than the other.
Okay. So you guys are right on. So there's this, the hip is shifted, and there's this curve, and her subluxation is bad enough to where it actually is called scoliosis. So she has a 25-degree scoliosis through that area, okay? So looking at it, she came in, and that's the problem. So in this case, realizing it's in the lower part of the spine, what organs would be impacted with that type of a subluxation?
Pelvic organs.
Okay, pelvic organs, colon, digestion, that's right. And so she has a history of what? Irritable bowel syndrome. So in this case, what would be the logical thing to do if this was your spine? What do you think? Yeah, go see a chiropractor, right. And to fix it as much as possible, right? Because is she getting healthier or is she getting sicker with this problem? She's getting sicker. So the logical thing to do would be to actually fix the problem. So with Lauren, what we did was her program was a 44-visit program over a 9-month period. And so her biggest concern with that program was time. Because she's a lawyer and she's a mother of 4 people. So when it comes to health, what I told Lauren was that your spine will not take the time to fix itself unless you make the time to fix it. because the research says this is a progressive advancing degenerative problem. In other words, it just gets worse if you don't fix it. And the other thing is, when you think about it, is when people come and they have a concern about the time, what I usually tell them is, do you think that coming to our office 3 times a week, knowing that the treatment is 15 minutes, that it could make you so much more productive whenever you're not here, that it easily compensates for the 3 visits a week when you come here? And the answer is absolutely. And so that's what she did. She did the program, and so we redid the x-rays after the 44 visits, and what we saw was her scoliosis had gone from 25 degrees down to 13 degrees, almost half. So the irritable bowel problems had gone away, the back pain was doing much better, the sciatic was gone away as well. And so she just did fantastic. So now, do you think that she feels like she's a better attorney, a better mother? Absolutely. Is she able to travel and do the things that she wasn't able to do before? Absolutely, that's exactly what she's doing now. Okay, so the next patient, this is Larry. He is 72 years old. He lives out by the lake. He originally came in as a referral from another patient, and the biggest concern he had is he had a lot of neck pain going down into his arm, and he couldn't fish. That was his biggest concern. He also has a long history of heart issues in his family. So looking at it, this is the upper part of his spine, his left shoulder, his right shoulder, his head. This is his spine. Where's the subluxation?
Does look like in the upper part of his back it's going all the way to the right.
Okay, so you guys see a shift in his spine up there? That's right. So looking at it, remember, from the back, your spine should be straight, and see how his comes up and shifts and comes up and shifts off again? You'll see how his shoulders shifted down like that? So with his, what organs, realizing the main area is this middle back, right in this area here, so what organs would be impacted with that type of a subluxation?
Heart.
Okay, heart, that's right. Well, heart, lungs, all through that area through there. And so what would be the ultimate consequence if he didn't fix this problem?
Have a heart attack?
Good,
Maybe.
right? It certainly would make it to where his heart would continue to function less than it otherwise would be able to. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And so what would be the logical thing to do?
Go to a chiropractor.
And fix it,
Yeah.
right, as much as possible. So with Larry, the program that we had recommended for him was the exact same length of time as Lauren's program, which was a 44 visit program. With Larry, he had plenty of time because he was retired, but his biggest concern was more to do with the finances. And so with the finances of the care, with Larry, what we said to him was, it may seem like a little bit of money now, but if you look long term, does it make sense that it could end up saving a person tens of thousands of dollars, maybe more, by fixing the problem now? Does that make sense? And when it comes to your health, can you really put a price tag on your own health?
No.
The answer is you really can't, okay? And so also when it comes to the finances, for most people, when it comes to your health, it's not so much to do with your resources as it is to do with being resourceful in finding a way to invest in your health, invest in your future, invest in your life, all right? So looking at it, with Larry, he did the program, and when we redid his x-rays after the 44 visits, we saw that his spine was almost right along the line, and his neck shifted just a little bit off to the right. Now, his symptoms had completely cleared up, but one of the great things about his case was, not only did his pain go away, but his blood pressure came down, and he's super happy, he's super excited about it. He's able to fish, he's able to be the husband that he wants to be, and do all the things that he would like to do. Okay, so the last patient here we know real well. Her name is Abby, and we know her real well because she actually was a staff at our office. So she is 19 years old, and she was going to college up in Nebraska, and so she had 2 car accidents, and after the accidents, her life really spiraled out of control. So she had all kinds of neck pain and headaches. Her energy level was so low that it was almost impossible for her to get up and go to class. So she actually dropped out of college and moved back to Temple. And so we knew her mom, and she was looking for a job, and so we hired her. So she came on board with us, and we did the exam, and we did the x-rays, and this is what we saw. So this is the side view. She's looking this way. So what do you notice? Remember, from the side, what should the spine look like, particularly the neck?
It should have a curve.
It should have a curve. Now, the interesting with hers is, you see that she has a curve, but it goes this way. And the problem is the curve should go the other way. So she has remember we said anything less than 20 is considered to be what?
Disease.
Yeah, diseased. And hers is -12.
Oh, wow.
So if this were you, what would be the logical thing to do?
Get it fixed.
Would be to get it fixed, right? Because if she does nothing, what's gonna happen?
It's gonna get worse.
It's just gonna get worse, okay? And so her program was shorter. It was a 36 visit program over a 6-month period. She's a little younger, right? The prognosis was a little better. So we redid her x-rays after that, and it went from a -12 to a +15 degrees.
Oh, wow.
So now, is she getting sicker, or now is she getting healthier?
Definitely.
Now she's getting healthier. The energy's back, the neck pain, the headaches have gone away. And so after this x-ray though, she felt so much better that what do you think she did?
She went back to school.
Yeah, she went back to college. So she moved on, which is great, because that's what we want to do, is allow people to live the lives that they were created to have, okay? So looking at it, what we're gonna do is in a few minutes, we're gonna go back and go over your x-rays. And before we do that, and when we do that, who's the doctor?
We are.
Of course you are. Before we do that, I'm just gonna go over a few things. One is how the care works. Then I'm gonna go over the expectations for those you guys who are becoming patients today. Okay, so looking at it, I use this chart to go over the recovery process, what our new patients can expect over time. Well, most patients come in with some type of symptom, not all, but if you are here with some type of a symptom, realize that our #1 goal is just to get you feeling better. So in the beginning, the adjustments are scheduled close together. There are 3 possible responses to care. Some patients get real fast results, all the pain goes away right away. A few patients initially take a couple steps backwards before they get better. However, most patients, every adjustment just kind of builds on the one before until at a certain point it turns the corner and they start to notice improvement, feel better, then the symptoms are gone. So for most patients to go from symptoms to feeling better is a matter of weeks. Now at that point, if we were to redo your x-rays, they would look exactly the same. You wouldn't have achieved any correction. That's why we go on to correct the problem as much as possible. And so to go from here to here may take a matter of weeks. To go from here up to here can take anywhere from 6 months to a year and a half. The cost usually does range from $3,000 to $5,000 for that. Now, we only have 3 expectations for you guys to be patients at our office. The first expectation is that you commit to yourself. And so what do we mean by that? If we do accept you as a patient, we're gonna have you scheduled for a number of visits. It's absolutely vital that you maintain your schedule and make your appointments, because we can't help you if you're not here, right? And we're also gonna send all of you home with exercises to do at home. You just have to do the home exercises in the rehab. The second expectation is that you would commit to your family. So at our office, we make it super easy for you to find out if your family members have subluxations. So for 2 weeks from today, anyone who lives in your household, they can come in, get their full history, the full exam, all necessary x-rays, the same thorough job we did for you guys, and we cover the cost. And we would encourage you, there's no obligation, right? There's no cost. That way, they would know at least if they have subluxations, and if they do have subluxations, how they would be able to correct that. And if they do become patients at our office, we do have a family plan that would allow them to get the care at a reduced fee. So looking at it, I have a question for you guys. So if we were to look at it, this was a patient, and her name is Emma, and this is the lower part of her spine, this is the upper part of the spine. So what do you notice about her spine?
Shifts off, and then it shifts back over.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So in the lower part of her spine, she has this big shift off to the right, and in the upper part it shifts off and comes back. So how old do you think Emma is? She's 8 years old.
Oh, she's a baby.
Okay, and she didn't have any symptoms. So my question is, when do you think that a lot of these problems start?
Early.
Early.
Yeah.
You can't wait until you have symptoms to get checked for subluxations. So I would encourage you to get everyone in your family checked, not only your spouses, but all of your kids as well. And then at that point, they can decide what they'd like to do from there, okay? The third expectation is that you commit to the people you know. So who in here learned something, or you at least looked at health a little bit differently than you did a half hour ago, okay? So who were you thinking about whenever we were going over the drugs and living in pain and living with these health conditions? So we make it really easy for you to get the message out on how chiropractic can help people. So once a month, the first Thursday every single month, we have a dinner out at the Dead Fish Grill. We call it our Dynamic Wellness Dinner. And we want to encourage you to invite as many adult guests as you can to our dinner. And what we do is you order your food, and while they're preparing the food, we give a 30-minute presentation on natural healthcare, some of the same concepts we've gone over here today. And after that, they bring out the food and we pay for the whole thing. How nice is that? That's pretty nice, right?
Absolutely.
Why would we do that? It's really because we feel like it's our obligation to make sure that this message of health and healing gets out to those people that need to hear it, all right? Now, the people that you invite, is their health your responsibility?
No.
No, it's not. But once you know information that could help someone, now it is your responsibility to at least make sure that information gets out there. And we make it really easy for you guys to do that, okay? Hey, before we go over your x-rays, I wanted to just kind of finish the story that I had about the problem I had. So I got up from the guardrail, went back home because it was at the final exams week, and as I was at home working, my family owned a lumber yard, and so I was working in the lumber yard, and my uncle saw that I was really struggling with my health. So he suggested that I go see a chiropractor. Now, I'd never been to a chiropractor. I really didn't know anything about it, but I went to the chiropractor and they adjusted my spine. And for the first time in as many years as I could remember, I felt no pain, I felt healthier, and it literally changed my life. And so I was so inspired by that I went to chiropractic school, and so got out of chiropractic school and opened Advanced Chiropractic back in 2003. And since then, we've become the #1 chiropractic office in all of Central Texas. And we've been able to help thousands of people not only get out of pain, get off their drugs, avoid having to have surgeries, but literally live the life they were created to have and fulfilling their purpose here on earth. And now you guys have that same opportunity just like I did, okay? So what we're gonna do is we're gonna break up in just a few minutes. We're gonna go over your x-rays individually, and then after that, we're gonna get you guys adjusted today. All right, so you're ready to feel better. All right, great. You ready? You wanna come with me?